Captain William Elias stared out the viewport of his quarters aboard the Earth Defense Force vessel Intrepid. The stars looked the same as they always did, cold and distant against the black void. Yet everything had changed in the last 24 hours. It started with a signal, not on any human frequency or using any human encryption. It came simultaneously to every major government on Earth, bypassing all security protocols as if they weren't even there. The message was simple, delivered in perfect English and every other human language at once. The Galactic Council requires the presence of Earth's representative. Coordinates and time of rendezvous attached. Compliance is mandatory. Elias ran his hand through his short brown hair, a nervous habit from childhood that had followed him through his 42 years of life. 3 combat tours during the Mars conflict, diplomatic missions to the Jupiter colonies during their independence crisis, and even that classified encounter with the unknown vessel near Neptune. Nothing had prepared him for this. Captain, the voice of Lieutenant Samantha Russell, his executive officer, came through the intercom. The Joint Chiefs are waiting in the briefing room. On my way, Elias replied, straightening his uniform jacket. The Intrepid's briefing room was crowded with faces showing varying degrees of fear and uncertainty. Admiral Frank Wells, the weathered head of Earth Defense Force, stood as Elias entered. Captain Elias, good. We can begin, the Admiral said, gesturing to the only empty chair. On the main screen, 5 alien vessels hung in Earth orbit. They had appeared without warning, somehow bypassing every early detection system humanity had constructed. Each ship was at least 3 times the size of Earth's largest vessel. These ships arrived 6 hours ago, continued the Admiral. They've taken position above our 5 most populated cities. They've made no hostile moves, but they've ignored all attempts at communication except to repeat their initial message. General Lisa Daniels, head of Global Intelligence, spoke next. We know nothing about this Galactic Council. No previous evidence of organized alien governance has ever been detected. We're completely in the dark. And they want a representative, Elias said quietly. Yes, the Admiral nodded. And we've chosen you. Elias felt the weight of every eye in the room. Me. Why not a diplomat or a head of state? They specifically asked for a representative who could make decisions for Earth, not for any single nation. Politicians couldn't agree on who should go. But you, Captain, your record speaks for itself. The Mars Peace Treaty, the Jupiter negotiations. You have a way of finding solutions where others see only problems. President Andrew Carter's face appeared on a secondary screen. Captain Elias, I won't order you to accept this mission. The risks are obvious and unknown. But Earth needs someone who will represent not just our interests, but our values. Elias looked at the alien ships on the display, sleek, with strange geometric patterns across their hulls that seemed to shift when viewed directly. 5 vessels that made humanity's entire defense fleet look like toys. When do I leave? He asked. In 12 hours, the Admiral replied. You'll take a small team. Choose who you need. Back in his quarters, Elias began making preparations. His first call was to Lieutenant Russell. Sam, I need you on this mission, he said without preamble when her face appeared on his screen. Already packing, sir, she replied with a thin smile. I figured you'd want someone to watch your back. Next was Dr. Olivia Grant, the Intrepid's xenobiologist. Then Alan Winters, former diplomat turned military liaison. As Earth grew smaller behind their shuttle 6 hours later, Elias watched the massive Council escort vessel looming ahead. Its hull seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it, making it appear like a ship-shaped hole in space. Ready to make history? Russell asked, taking the seat beside him. I'm just hoping we have a future to come back to, Elias replied as the alien ship's docking bay opened before them, revealing a cavernous space bathed in blue light. The summons had been delivered. The journey had begun, and Captain William Elias, carrying the hopes and fears of all humanity, was about to meet the Galactic Council. The alien ship swallowed their small shuttle like a whale consuming a minnow. Captain Elias and his team watched through the viewport as massive doors sealed behind them, cutting off their view of Earth and the stars beyond. Atmosphere readings are normal, Lieutenant Russell reported, checking her instruments. Gravity slightly stronger than Earth standard, but within tolerable limits. Dr. Olivia Grant pressed her face to the glass, her eyes wide with professional excitement despite the tension. Look at the architecture. Those aren't just decorative patterns on the walls. They're moving, almost like they're alive. The shuttle settled onto the deck with a gentle bump. A seam appeared in the far wall of the hangar, widening into a doorway from which 3 figures emerged. Our welcoming committee, muttered Alan Winters, the diplomatic officer. Remember, Captain, first impressions matter. These are the first aliens humanity has officially met. Elias nodded, taking a deep breath before activating the shuttle's exit ramp. Let's not keep them waiting. The aliens stood nearly 7 feet tall, with slender bodies covered in smooth blue-gray skin. Their faces featured 4 eyes arranged in a diamond pattern above a small mouth. They wore simple white garments that seemed to flow like liquid around their bodies. Captain William Elias of Earth, Elias said, standing tall at the bottom of the ramp. We come in peace. The central alien stepped forward. When it spoke, the sound came not from its mouth but seemed to form directly in their minds. I am Navigator Kelver. Welcome aboard the Council vessel Eternal Justice. You will follow us to your quarters. The journey to Centauri Prime will take 7 Earth days. The corridors they walked through bent in ways that seemed to defy normal geometry. Other aliens moved past them, some similar to their guides, others wildly different in form. All gave the humans curious glances, but kept their distance. 7 days to Centauri Prime. Dr. Grant whispered. That's over 4 light years. The technology required for that kind of speed is beyond anything we've even theorized. Their quarters were spacious but sparse, with 4 separate sleeping chambers surrounding a common area. Once alone, Elias gathered his team. Observations. They're not telling us everything, Russell said immediately. Did you notice how the other aliens reacted to us? It was like we were a curiosity, but also something to be feared. Winters nodded. And there's something about the way Navigator Kelver referred to the Council. Almost religious reverence. This isn't just a government, it's an institution. Dr. Grant was busy scanning the walls with her equipment. Captain, these walls are partially biological. The entire ship might be a semi-living organism. Their discussion was interrupted by a soft chime. The wall parted to reveal a small, hunched creature with mottled green skin. It shuffled into the room carrying what appeared to be food containers. Sustenance for the Earth beings, it said in halting English, spoken aloud this time, not telepathically. May it nourish your bodies as service nourishes the soul. As the creature arranged the containers on a table, Elias noticed dark marks around its wrists and neck, like old scars or burns. Thank you, Elias said. What's your name? The creature froze, all 6 of its eyes blinking rapidly. This one is called Gruck. I serve the mighty council, as all Valari do since the Great Submission. Great Submission? Winters asked casually, his diplomatic training kicking in. Gruck trembled slightly. 300 cycles ago, when the glorious council brought peace to our world. He leaned closer, voice dropping to a whisper. The Earth beings have been summoned, not invited. No species is ever invited. What do you mean? Elias asked. When the summons comes, there is only one acceptable response. Gruck made a strange gesture, touching his forehead to the floor briefly. You will learn the proper way to kneel before the council. All species do, in the end. The creature straightened suddenly, as if realizing it had said too much. Enjoy your sustenance. We will reach Centauri Prime soon. There, you will meet the council and understand. With that, Gruck scurried from the room, leaving the humans to exchange troubled glances. Captain, Russell said quietly, I don't think this is a diplomatic mission after all. Elias stared at the door where Gruck had disappeared. No, he agreed. I think it's a ritual of submission. 7 days passed like a strange dream. The humans rarely saw their blue-skinned guides, but Gruk visited often, bringing food and cleaning their quarters. Each time, Captain Elias tried to learn more about the Council and Centauri Prime. You ask many questions, Gruk said on their final day of travel. Questions are dangerous before the Council. On Earth, questions are how we learn, Elias replied. Gruk made a sound that might have been a laugh. The Council does not wish species to learn, only to serve. The ship shuddered slightly, and a soft tone echoed through the walls. We have arrived, Gruk announced, his 6 eyes blinking nervously. Prepare yourselves. Few see Centauri Prime and remain unchanged. When the humans stepped onto the observation deck, even Dr. Grant gasped in wonder. Below them spread a massive ring structure surrounding a blue-white star. The ring was clearly artificial, thousands of miles across, but seemingly built as a single structure. Centauri Prime, Navigator Kelver announced, appearing suddenly beside them. Home of the Galactic Council for 20,000 years. Your species is honored to be summoned here. What exactly is the Council? Elias asked directly. The Council is order, Kelver replied. The Council is peace. 7 great species who rose above war and chaos to bring harmony to the galaxy. By making other species submit, Russell asked. Kelver's 4 eyes blinked in sequence. You will understand soon. Council Representative Zixar awaits you on the surface. Their shuttle descended toward the ring. As they grew closer, they could see that the entire structure teemed with life. Cities, oceans, mountains, all contained on the inner surface of the ring, bathed in the eternal light of the central star. Artificial gravity, Dr. Grant whispered in awe. The engineering required for this is beyond imagination. They landed on a vast platform where a tall figure waited. Unlike the blue-skinned Kelver, this being stood nearly 9 feet tall with an insect-like exoskeleton of gleaming black. 4 arms were folded across its chest. I am Zixar, the being said, its voice clicking and buzzing directly in their minds. Representative of the Council, you will follow. The city beyond the landing platform was a marvel of impossible architecture. Buildings that seemed to float, vehicles that moved without visible means of propulsion, and dozens of alien species moving through wide plazas and elevated walkways. 43 species currently serve the Council, Zixar explained as they walked. Earth will be the 44th, once formalities are complete. Serve. Winters asked carefully. What exactly does that entail? Each species contributes according to its abilities, Zixar replied. Some provide resources, others technical expertise or military service. They stopped before a massive structure that resembled a blooming flower made of crystal and metal. The Hall of Acceptance, Zixar announced. Inside, you will meet representatives of other recently accepted species. They will help prepare you for your audience with the Council tomorrow. Inside, aliens of various forms mingled in a large circular chamber. Zixar led them to a group near the center. These beings were accepted within the last cycle, Zixar explained. They will instruct you in proper protocol. A short, furry being with 6 limbs approached them. I am Krila of Vox Prime, it said in halting English. You are the humans. Yes, Elias replied. I'm Captain William Elias. Good. Come, you must learn the submission ritual before your audience. Krila gestured to an open area where other aliens were practicing a series of movements. What exactly is this ritual? Russell asked. Simple, Krila explained. When brought before the Council, you will approach the circle of voice. You will kneel, touch forehead to floor, and pledge Earth's eternal service to the Council. And if we choose not to? Elias asked quietly. The room fell silent. Every alien turned to stare at them. Not to. Krila's voice trembled. There is no not to. All species kneel before the Council. It is the way of things. Not our way, Elias said firmly. Zixar stepped forward, its tall form suddenly menacing. "You misunderstand, Captain Elias. This is not a negotiation. The ritual will be performed, or Earth will face consequences beyond your comprehension." Elias met the alien's gaze steadily. "Then we have much to discuss before tomorrow." For the first time since they arrived, Elias sensed uncertainty in their insectoid guide. It seemed no one had ever questioned the ritual before. Back in their assigned quarters, Captain Elias paced while his team discussed what they had learned. They had built an empire based on forced submission, Lieutenant Russell said, her voice tight with anger. "All these species, brought here just to kneel." Alan Winters nodded. "Classic power structure. The council sits at the top, and every new species must visibly demonstrate their lower status." Dr. Grant looked up from her datapad. "Captain, while Zixer was showing us around, I secretly scanned some of the technology. It's odd, their advancement isn't consistent. Some of it seems beyond anything we could imagine, but other parts feel borrowed. Borrowed." Elias stopped pacing. "Yes, different components don't match in design or function. It's like they've pieced together technology from multiple sources rather than developing it naturally." A soft chime interrupted them as the door slid open. A small hovering device floated in, projecting a hologram of what appeared to be a document. "The Galactic Incorporation Treaty," the device announced in flat, mechanical English. "To be reviewed before tomorrow's ceremony." Elias took the offered data tablet. "Thank you. We'll look it over carefully." After the device departed, they gathered around to read the treaty. It was lengthy, written in formal language that Winters translated into simpler terms. "This is worse than we thought," he said after several minutes. "Earth would get basic protection and limited technology, but look at the cost. They want 20% of all our resources, conscription rights for humans to serve in their military, and access to what they call biological samples from our population." Russell scrolled through additional pages. "Wait, look at Section 23. It's hidden in legal terms, but they're basically claiming ownership of Earth itself. After 50 years, they can increase resource extraction to whatever level they want. And these biological samples," Dr. Grant added, her face pale. "They're not just talking about blood or tissue. The wording suggests they want people, thousands of them yearly, for research purposes." Elias sat heavily in a chair. "This isn't an alliance. It's colonization." "What do we do, Captain?" Russell asked. "We can't accept these terms." "No, we can't," Elias agreed. "But we're also not in a position to negotiate. Their technology is beyond ours, and they have ships positioned above Earth's major cities." Winters tapped the tablet thoughtfully. "Maybe we can stall. Request more time to review the treaty. Ask for clarifications." "I don't think time will help us," Elias said. "We need information, leverage of some kind." Dr. Grant had been quiet, studying her scanner. "Captain, I might have something. These readings from the central archives we passed, they show massive energy signatures, but also biological patterns similar to what I detected in humans." "Humans? How is that possible?" "I don't know, but I have clearance to the xenobiology archives as a visiting scientist. If I could access their database, maybe I could find a connection." Elias nodded slowly. "Do it. Russell, go with her. Winters and I will continue reviewing this treaty, looking for any loopholes or weaknesses we can exploit." After Russell and Grant left, Winters leaned closer to Elias. "Captain, what's your real plan? You're not actually considering signing this, are you?" "No," Elias said firmly. "But I need to understand what we're really dealing with before I decide how to respond. Something doesn't add up. Why would a powerful council of advanced species care so much about Earth? We're barely interstellar travelers. What makes us valuable enough to bring us all this way?" "Maybe it's not about value," Winters suggested. "Maybe it's about control. Every empire needs to keep expanding to survive." "Perhaps," Elias agreed. "But I think there's more to it." He stood and walked to the window overlooking the vast ring structure of Centauri Prime. "And tomorrow, When they expect me to kneel and sign away humanity's future, they're going to learn something important about us. What's that? Elias's reflection in the window looked back at him, determined and resolute. That humans don't surrender their freedom. Not without one hell of a fight. Outside their quarters, unseen by the humans, a small recording device transmitted their conversation directly to Council Representative Zixer. The insectoid being's multiple eyes narrowed as it listened to Elias's words. Most interesting, Zixar clicked to a shadowy figure beside it. It appears these humans may be more trouble than anticipated. Dr. Grant and Lieutenant Russell moved carefully through the wide corridors of the Xenobiology archives. Their visitor badges granted them basic access, but they still tried to avoid drawing attention. "This way," Dr. Grant whispered, following the readings on her scanner. "There's a secure data terminal in the next chamber." The room they entered was circular with glowing displays covering the walls. Various alien beings worked at stations around the perimeter, but none paid attention to the humans. "I'll keep watch," Russell said, positioning herself near the door as Dr. Grant approached an unused terminal. The interface responded to her touch, symbols shifting into English text. "They've adapted it for us," she muttered. "Interesting." Her fingers flew across the screen, searching through categories and files. "Let me try genetic classification systems, ancestral species mapping." A warning flashed on the screen. "What's wrong?" Russell asked, noticing Grant's sudden stillness. "I requested information on Earth's genetic markers, and it triggered a security flag." She worked quickly, bypassing the warning. "But I think I found something. Look at this." Russell moved closer. On the screen was an image of a DNA strand with certain sections highlighted, next to a similar strand labeled precursor DNA, restricted access. "The similarity is unmistakable," Dr. Grant said, her voice hushed with excitement and fear. "Over 90% match in key sections. Whoever these precursors were, they're genetically linked to humans." "Can you access the precursor files?" Russell asked. "I'm trying, but they're heavily encrypted." Dr. Grant continued working, eventually breaking through another layer of security. "Wait, I got something." A file opened, showing images of beings that looked remarkably human-like, but with slightly elongated features and pale blue skin. Text scrolled beside the images. "The precursors," Dr. Grant read. "An advanced species that challenged council authority approximately 50,000 years ago. They were eradicated." Her voice faltered, "but not before they seeded several worlds with modified genetic material." "Earth," Russell whispered. "Yes. According to this, the precursors knew they were losing their war with the Council. They created genetic repositories on distant planets, hoping their legacy would someday continue." "And we're that legacy?" Russell asked. "It seems so. The Council has been monitoring Earth for millennia, waiting for us to reach a certain developmental stage." A new file appeared on the screen, recently accessed records of Council meetings regarding Earth. "Listen to this," Dr. Grant read. "Human subjects carry the unique PRC7 gene sequence, making them valuable research specimens for the continued advancement of Council technology. They're after something in our genetic code. We need to get this information back to the captain," Russell said urgently. A sharp clicking sound made them both freeze. In the doorway stood a tall figure, not Zixar, but another insectoid being with deep red markings on its exoskeleton. "Interesting research, Earth beings," it said, its mental voice cold and precise. "Accessing restricted files is a serious violation of Council law." Russell stepped forward, hand moving toward her concealed sidearm. "We were granted research access. To basic xenobiology files, yes, not to precursor records." The being moved closer. "I am Security Director Vextor. You will come with me for questioning." Dr. Grant quickly pressed a sequence on the terminal, sending the data to her pad before the screen went dark. "We meant no harm. We're simply trying to understand our place in the galactic community." "Your place?" Vexter's mandibles clicked in what might have been amusement. Your place is the same as all species who came before, to serve the Council, to provide what we require, and to never question the natural order. And what exactly do you require from us? Russell asked directly. Your genetic material carries traces of precursor resistance to certain control methods. This makes you valuable for study. Vexter gestured, and 2 guards appeared behind him. Now, you will come with me. I don't think so, Russell said, suddenly moving with military precision. She grabbed Dr. Grant and threw a small device toward the guards, a flash grenade from her emergency kit. The explosion of light and sound disoriented the aliens long enough for the humans to slip past them into the corridor. Run, Russell shouted as alarms began to sound throughout the facility. We need to warn the captain. The Council doesn't want an alliance. They want test subjects. Captain Elias and Alan Winters were in the middle of discussing strategy when their quarters door burst open. Lieutenant Russell and Dr. Grant rushed in, breathless and disheveled. Captain, we've got trouble, Russell said, quickly sealing the door behind them. Security forces are right behind us. What happened? Elias demanded. Dr. Grant connected her data pad to the room's display screen. We found out why the Council is so interested in Earth. We're descendants of a species called the Precursors. Images and text appeared on the screen, the same files they had discovered in the archives. The Precursors were an advanced civilization that challenged Council rule thousands of years ago, Dr. Grant explained quickly. When they were losing the war, they seeded several planets with their DNA. Earth was one of them. That's why the Council monitored us for so long, Russell added. They've been waiting for us to reach a specific developmental stage. Winters studied the genetic diagrams. They want to harvest genetic material from humans. For what purpose? Resistance, Dr. Grant said. Our DNA contains sequences that make us resistant to certain Council control methods. They want to study us, like lab animals. A loud bang shook their door. Metal scraped against metal as something tried to force entry. We don't have much time, Elias said grimly. The audience with the Council is scheduled for 3 hours from now. That gives us one chance to turn this around. What are you thinking, Captain? Russell asked. The Council has built its power on fear and submission. No species has ever challenged them directly. What if we did? You mean refuse the treaty? Winters looked shocked. Captain, they could destroy Earth in retaliation. Maybe not, Dr. Grant interjected. From what I read, the Council maintains control through ritual and tradition more than direct force. They haven't fought a real war since the Precursors. They might not know how to respond to open defiance. The door shuttered again. We need to get to the Council chamber, Elias decided. Is there another way out of here? Russell pointed to the environmental control panel. The maintenance tunnels. Every space station I've ever been on has them. Working quickly, they removed the panel and squeezed into the narrow passage beyond. They had barely replaced the cover when the main door finally gave way, and security forces poured into the now empty room. For an hour, they crawled through the maze of maintenance tunnels, using Dr. Grant's scanner to navigate toward the center of the station, where the Council chamber was located. Almost there, Russell whispered, pointing to a vent ahead. Through it, they could see a massive circular room. 7 elevated platforms surrounded a central speaking area. Aliens of various species were filing in, taking positions in tiered seating. The audience is beginning, Winters said. They'll notice our absence soon. Elias examined the space below the vent. We can drop down behind those decorative columns. Wait for the right moment, then I'll present myself. And then what? Russell asked. Then I do what no one has done before. I speak the truth to the Council. They removed the vent cover and dropped silently into the shadows at the edge of the great chamber. Hundreds of aliens filled the tiered seats, representing dozens of species. At the highest point, 7 figures took their places on the elevated platforms, the High Counselors themselves. Representatives of Earth, a booming voice announced. "Step forward to receive the blessing of the council." Guards searched the chamber entrances, their confusion evident when no humans appeared. "Now," Elias whispered to his team, "whatever happens, get that data back to Earth." He stepped out from behind the column and walked steadily toward the central speaking area. The chamber fell silent as every eye turned to watch him. "I am Captain William Elias of Earth," he announced, his voice echoing through the vast space, "and I have come to speak with the council." The tallest of the high counselors leaned forward, its crystalline body catching the light. "You have come to submit, Earth being. The ritual requires kneeling." Elias stood even straighter, shoulders back, head high. "That's where you're wrong. I haven't come to kneel. I've come to talk as equals, about the precursors, about your plans for humanity, and about a different kind of future than the one you've imagined." A shocked murmur rippled through the assembly. For the first time, in 20,000 years, someone stood before the Galactic Council and refused to kneel. Silence filled the council chamber. No one moved. No one spoke. The 7 high counselors looked down at Elias with expressions ranging from shock to fury. "This is unprecedented," the crystalline counselor finally said, its voice like breaking glass. "Security, remove this being and prepare it for compliance adjustment." Guards started forward, but Elias raised his voice. "Before you do that, perhaps you should explain to everyone here why you're so interested in human DNA. Why you've hidden the truth about the precursors for thousands of years." The guards hesitated, looking up at the council for direction. "This is not the proper forum for such discussions," another counselor said, this one a massive, floating brain-like entity surrounded by a force field. "The ritual must be completed first." "No," Elias said firmly. "No more rituals, no more submission. It's time for truth." He pulled out Dr. Grant's data pad and projected its contents for all to see. Images of the precursors and genetic comparisons between them and humans filled the air above him. "Humanity carries the legacy of the precursors," Elias announced. "The same precursors you destroyed because they challenged your authority. You've been waiting for us to develop just enough to be useful to you, but not enough to threaten you." Murmurs rippled through the audience. Many of the alien representatives leaned forward, their attention fixed on the genetic diagrams. "Lies and distortions," the crystalline counselor declared. "This human speaks falsehoods to disrupt our sacred order." From the shadows, Lieutenant Russell, Dr. Grant, and Alan Winters spread out around the edges of the chamber, connecting the data pad to multiple display terminals, ensuring everyone could see the evidence. "If I'm lying, then open your genetic archives to everyone here," Elias challenged. "Let all species see the truth of their origins, of how you've manipulated and controlled them for your own purposes." A new voice spoke from the audience section. A small green figure stood. "Gruck, their servant from the ship." "The human speaks truth," Gruck said, his voice trembling but clear. "My ancestors were free before the council came. They took our world, our resources, our people for experiments." One by one, other voices joined in. Representatives from a dozen species stood, each sharing stories of exploitation and control. "Enough," the crystalline counselor roared. "Guards, secure this chamber." But the guards themselves looked uncertain now, weapons lowered as they watched more and more representatives stand in support of Elias's words. A section of wall suddenly exploded inward. Through the smoke stepped Security Director Vextor, flanked by heavily armed troops. "The humans must be contained," Vextor declared. "They possess dangerous knowledge." "The only danger is to your power," Elias replied calmly. "You've built an empire on lies and submission. But that ends today." Vextor raised his weapon, but before he could fire, something unexpected happened. Many of the guards turned their weapons toward him instead of Elias. "What is the meaning of this?" Vextor demanded. "We've served the council for generations," said one guard, removing his helmet to reveal reptilian features. "But we've never been told why. We've never questioned." Perhaps it's time we did. The crystalline counselor stood, its body glowing with energy. This is rebellion. The punishment is extinction. Like the precursors. Elias asked, how many other species have you wiped out to maintain your control? Dr. Grant stepped forward, holding up her scanner. Captain, I'm detecting a massive energy buildup. I think they're activating some kind of weapon system. Elias faced the council directly. Is this your answer? Destruction rather than truth. You claim to bring order and peace to the galaxy, but you rule through fear and lies. The brain-like counselor pulsed. You cannot understand. The precursor rebellions nearly destroyed the galaxy. Order must be maintained. Not at the cost of freedom, Elias replied. Humanity will not submit. We will not kneel. And I think, he looked around at the now restless crowd, many still standing in defiance. We're not the only ones. Alarms began to sound throughout the chamber. The central platform where Elias stood suddenly glowed with energy, forming a containment field around him. Captain, Russell shouted, trying to reach him. Get to the ship, Elias ordered. Get this information back to Earth. Warn them. As his team fought their way toward an exit, pursued by loyal guards, Elias faced the council one last time. The crystalline counselor leaned forward, its voice low and menacing. You have no idea what you've started, human. Elias smiled slightly. No, but I know how it's going to end. With your kind of empire falling and free species standing tall. Lieutenant Russell led Dr. Grant and Alan Winters through the chaos of the council station. Alarms blared everywhere. Aliens of all species ran in different directions, some trying to maintain order, others joining the growing rebellion. We need to reach the docking bay, Russell shouted over the noise. Find a ship that can get us to Earth. What about the captain? Dr. Grant asked, clutching her data pad with its precious information. He gave us an order, Russell replied, her voice tight with emotion. The best way to help him now is to warn Earth about what's coming. They rounded a corner and almost collided with Gruck and several other small green aliens. This way, Gruck said urgently. Many of us have waited generations for this moment. We will help you escape. Gruck led them through service corridors and hidden passages until they reached a smaller docking area with several scout ships. Take this one, Gruck said, pointing to a sleek vessel. It has the fastest engines and the best stealth systems. As they prepared to board, a familiar clicking sound made them turn. Council Representative Zixer stood blocking their path, 4 arms now holding weapons. You have disrupted 10,000 years of order, Zixer said. For that, there can be no forgiveness. Your order was built on lies and oppression, Winters replied. It deserves to fall. Zixer raised his weapons, but before he could fire, a barrage of energy blasts hit him from behind. The insectoid alien crashed to the floor, revealing Gruck and his companions holding stolen security weapons. Go, Gruck urged. We will hold them off. Tell your people to prepare. The Council will not allow Earth to remain free. Russell nodded grimly. Thank you, Gruck. When this is over, we'll come back for Captain Elias, and for your people. They boarded the ship and managed to launch, slipping past the confusion of Council vessels, now dealing with rebellions on multiple levels of the station. Meanwhile, in the Council chamber, Captain Elias remained trapped in the energy field. The 7 High Counselors surrounded him, their faces showing a mixture of rage and fear. You have no idea what you've done, the crystalline counselor said. The galaxy needs order to survive. Not your kind of order, Elias replied calmly. Not one built on submission and fear. You think you've won. The brain-like counselor pulsed angrily. Your small victory here means nothing. We have fleets throughout the galaxy. Your planet will be reduced to ash. Elias smiled. I don't think so. You've ruled so long through ritual and tradition that you've forgotten how to actually fight. And now, for the first time in millennia, you're facing species who are no longer afraid. The chamber shook as explosions rocked the station. On view screens around the room, images showed fighting throughout Centauri Prime. Servant species attacking their masters. Council ships firing on each other. "This is your legacy," the crystalline counselor said bitterly. "Chaos and destruction." "No," Elias corrected. "This is your legacy. Mine will be what comes after. Freedom and cooperation between equals." A massive explosion suddenly breached the council chamber wall. Through the smoke stepped a group of aliens led by the reptilian guard who had first turned against Vextor. "The control systems are ours," the guard announced. "We've deactivated the containment field." Elias felt the energy around him dissipate. He stepped forward. "Free." "What now, human?" the crystalline counselor asked, its glow dimming. "Will you destroy us, as you claim we would destroy you?" "No," Elias said firmly. "That's the difference between us. You'll face justice for what you've done, but not vengeance. Every species here will decide together what comes next." 3 months later, Captain William Elias stood on the bridge of the Earth vessel Intrepid, watching as representatives from 27 formerly subjugated species filed into Earth's new diplomatic center. Lieutenant Russell stood beside him. "Hard to believe it's only been 3 months since Centauri Prime. The Council's empire is completely collapsed." "Not collapsed," Elias corrected. "Transformed. They ruled through fear for 10,000 years. It will take time to build something better." "The Alliance of Free Worlds," Russell said, testing the new name. "Has a nice ring to it." Elias nodded. "And Earth at its center, not as rulers, but as the spark that lit the flame of freedom." "All because one captain refused to kneel," Russell said with a smile. Elias looked out at the stars, thinking of all that had happened and all that was yet to come. Humanity had faced its greatest challenge and had not only survived but thrived. The galaxy would never be the same again. And it had all started with a simple act of defiance, standing tall when others would have knelt. "It wasn't just me," he said quietly. "It was what humanity represents, the will to be free, to chart our own course among the stars." He turned to Russell with determination in his eyes. "And we're just getting started."